1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Can y'all hear me? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on with y'all? Peace, 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 peace. I know I haven't did a live in a minute, but I didn't really have time to do no upload. They said it's supposed to be a snowstorm coming, but it's not snowing in the city. It did start snowing in the Poconos. But what's going on with y'all? Salute to the members. Salute to the genuine supporters. Salute to the chat. Salute to everybody watching from behind the scenes. Everybody who catch this on a replay. It's your host and your DJ, Holla. Let's see who we got inside the building. Miss Pamela is in the building. Only Facts. David, 1609. What's going on, my brother? Miss Ramos. El Plaga TV. Miss Ramos, appreciate the membership. Appreciate you. 1609, appreciate. All right, let me hold on, let me give out these wrenches real quick. All right. I think that's everybody. So, I did an upload. Speaking on how African American is a social construct, and certain people got felt offended or felt some type of way. Crago, what's going on, my brother? Now, listen. I just want to say this. Now, I'm not saying, we have some people who feel like, I use the word Negro American. Some people use the word Black American or FBA. Now, listen, I'm not saying that, Dankster, what's going on? I'm not saying, people are not, people do not have African descent. Some people have indigenous descent. Some people even have, some European or what you call quote unquote white. But to put people in a box, you know what I'm saying? Like some people feel like, we're not African. And in a sense, we're not African. But some people deny even having African descent. So, me personally, I never really did a DNA test. I don't have no documents, quote, stating that, my family has, Africans in the family and all that. But I'm not denying that. I'm not saying it's not possible. but I have found, paperwork and documents, talking about, indigenous descent. Miss Jess, what's going on, Miss Jess? Some people, some people can, they have paperwork, they can trace their African roots. Some people can't. Some people can trace their indigenous roots. Some people can't. But, some people say, we're not African. We have no African descent, or we're straight African, and, it's different. People have different lineages. People have different admixtures. People have different backgrounds. And we were all classified under, Negro and then Black. It was an ethnogenesis. Just like, you have people who they say come from the slave trade to the Caribbean, or what have you. They're called Jamaican, or they're called Trinidadian, or whatever they call. They're not called African Jamaican. So me personally, I don't. It's putting everybody under one umbrella, and it kind of like it denies my indigenous roots. You feel what I'm saying? So I did my I did my lineage and stuff like that, and I found my great grandparents. Some say, these are them here. So I may have all types of different so-called race or ethnicity mixed into my lineage and stuff like that. But that's what I found, my indigenous lineage. And some indigenous people were classified as Negro because of how they looked. And, these are my great grandparents, and they're indigenous. You know what I'm saying? They're indigenous. But, they were classified as Negro. So, some people were classified as Negro. Flying Guillotine, what's going on? So then, you had something called the one drop rule, where some people was classified as Negro, but, they was, they had one Black parent, or quote unquote Black parent, one white parent, or, they were mixed. Some people were called mulatto, some people were called colored, and then later on, they were all put under the umbrella of Negro. So some people had no African descent. They could have been native mixed with European. But because of how they looked, they were classified as Negro. So to say, we're just African, it kind of denies, our other descent, our other ancestors and descendants. And to some people say they're just indigenous. Now, if you have, the records and the genealogy and stuff like that, cool. I'm not here to tell people how to identify and all of that, but I am here to tell people that you can't tell people how to identify, because everyone has their own story. Everyone has their own lineage. That's something you have to do individually. So a lot of people who were Negro were then later classified as African American. Like on I think the 2010 census, they removed Negro from the census. And they classified everybody as African American. But those who have no African descent are now classified as African American. And then you have people from the outside, or people who don't understand these things, getting upset when people say they're not African, or they don't identify as Africans. People get upset, like you're African. And then on the other hand, you have people who say, you're not African at all, we've been on this land. We are indigenous. Now, that's true for some people, but not for everybody. So I feel like you can't put everybody under one box. Yes, Miss Pamela, personal journey. So, I don't want people to get it twisted when they see me say, I don't identify as African. I don't want people to get it twisted, like me saying, I'm just purely indigenous, or, I'm denying my African roots and things of that nature, James Hart, what's going on, my brother? So when I say it's a social construct, just like black is a social construct. It doesn't determine your genealogy and things of that nature. Just like, Negro is the same thing, but Negro includes indigenous Americans, mulatto, or what you call mixed. So that's why I use that term. And that's what we were called before, we became Black and African American. So you see here, I use this logo. It says the Negro League. We had a lot of things. We had comics. We had the Negro comics. We had Negro Mountain. We had Negro Island. We had the Negro League, the Negro Five, which was basketball. So Black History Month began as Negro History Week. So I'm proposing next year we should dedicate the first week to Negro History Week. Carter G. Wilson, to honor those who celebrated, that part of our heritage. Because I see there's a lot of is arguments about who should celebrate Black History Month, who is talking about and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Black History Month, we include people like Marcus Garvey, who is West Indian or Jamaican. We include people like Nelson Mandela, who's African. We celebrate these people, but it began by celebrating, the American Negro. So we can't forget about that. And a lot of people are offended by that word, or people try to get rid of that word and all that. But I'm proud of that word, and I'm proud of the people who who went by that term and the accomplishments and the things they did for this country. But some people may not feel that way, and I'm not here to tell people how to identify and how to feel and what to say and what to identify as. But I'm just here to tell people we can't force people into boxes. So now, as far as African American, that can apply to people who are not quote unquote what they call FBA. Sometimes it feels like we don't have an identity, because anybody can be a Black American. You can come here and from somewhere else, and if you identify as Black, if you have children here, they're American, they Black American. You could come from Africa, come here, have children here, and they're African American. So how do you determine the difference? How do you separate Barack Obama from Jesse Jackson? Rest in peace, Jesse Jackson. A lot of people feel types of ways about Jesse Jackson and stuff like that. But how do you determine the difference? Barack Obama, they say, is our first Black president, or our first African American president, or but his father is from Africa and his mother is from I think Ireland or something like that. So a lot of people say, you should be grateful. Y'all got a Black president. But we didn't get a president that descended from slavery or the people who fought in every war. Do you know we fought in the Independent War, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, every war we fought in every war, even though some of us was still slaves. Now we all wasn't slaves. Some of us was free. Some of us gained our freedom. So it's a whole history, it's a whole story. So when you say Black history, you can't disregard our history, which helped to form the foundation of Black History Month. You can't discard Negro history. You know what I'm saying? Celebrating the month means you respect it. I don't think it matters who celebrates it as long as it's celebrated. My family celebrates it. We teach my kids with a yeah. I respect that. I mean, I celebrate well, I don't really celebrate holidays, but so quote unquote Black people celebrate, St. Patrick's Day and stuff like that. So I don't see no problem in celebrating it. But if you're going to celebrate something called Black History Month and you don't know nothing about Black history, it sounds suspect. Miss Simba, what's going on, Miss Simba? Appreciate you. So yeah, FBA separating themselves from Pan-African isn't wise, and FBA is way too emotional. Well, I hear you, Flying Guillotine, but when you say separating, that's the problem there. When you say separate, you can't separate yourself from something that's already separated. So you gotta realize that we, as what you call FBA, or we always was inclusive. We always was inclusive. We said everybody Black. Dominicans are Black. West Indians are Black. Everyone's Black. But you got some people, West Indians, who say they're not Black. You have some Africans who say they're not Black. You see what I'm saying? So Pan-Africanism, it says that everyone is African, but everyone that's Black or classified as Negro are not African. You have the Negritos in Southeast Asia. They're called Negro. They look like, Negroes, but they're not African. They Asian. So when you say Pan-African, that kind of separates, quote unquote, Black people or Negro people. So when you say, FBA separates themselves, what's the difference between FBA and a Jamaican, a FBA and a Nigerian? What's the difference? What's the difference? Because if we're all Black, if we're all supposed to be Black, why do they separate themselves by saying, I'm Jamaican, I'm Nigerian, I'm this, I'm that? So we're still calling ourselves Black. We just add in foundational in American because that's our nationality, American. Like, for instance, you can see three people and you can be like, oh, it was an African, it was a West Indian, and it was a Black. Now, when you say it was an African, it was a West Indian, and it was a Black, when you say it was a Black, they're thinking about Black Americans, but they don't identify us as, our nationality or, our continent or whatever you want to call it. So the division has always been there. So sometimes, when they say, Black people are lazy. Now, when they say Black people are lazy, who are they talking about? Are they talking about all black people? Because they say, Jamaicans have 5 jobs. They hard working. Africans, they hard working. But then they say black people are lazy. So, negative stereotypes are, are applied to us. Black on black crime, black people don't have no fathers, their parents is on drugs and all that. Like, who are you talking about? But when it's an accomplishment, like for instance, the first black president, Obama, we all black. So, when people say, we dividing ourselves and things like that, I don't think so. I think it's just more easier to explain who we are. Dominicans are definitely black, Afro-Caribbeans to be exact. Well, I hear that, Mr. 1609, but you also have Dominicans who look more what you might call white or European, because a Dominican is just a nationality, is not a quote unquote race. So, even, they have Chinese Jamaicans. They have, but when people say Jamaican, you think, oh, it's just Jamaicans are black. But that's a nationality. You feel me? So they don't do that with us. We are American. That's what we are. I'm American. You know what I'm saying? New York Nikki, appreciate you. What's going on, Miss New York Nikki? Virgo child, what's going on? But they don't say, I'm just American. They say that I'm African American. I've never been to Africa. I don't have anyone in my family that's African. I mean, I have family members who married or had children with African people. But it's like, we've been here, like, what they call foundational. We say foundational because we've been here before the United States of America was even established. We fought in every war. We fought for the independence of the same Anglo-European so-called white people who enslaved us, who kept us as slaves, most of us, after they gained their independence, which we helped them fight for. So if someone came in the 19th century through Ellis Island as immigrants from Europe, they're called American, but we're called African American. Some of them became presidents. Some of them, some people who came from Europe, they had children in America, and their children became the president. We haven't had one president, and we've been here since the beginning, before the beginning. So after a while, you have to start thinking about things like that. Because Obama's father is, I don't even think he's a citizen of America. I don't think he ever got his citizenship. I'm not sure, but he's an African immigrant, and his son became the first quote unquote black president. Some may say so-called biracial president. So I can understand, I definitely understand where people are coming from. Now, some of us is more extreme than others. Some of us is more extreme. Everybody have their different ideologies and, they different ways of thinking. But what people seem to do is generalize everybody who identifies as FBA as we all think the same. Y'all don't individualize people. Y'all put us under one umbrella. Like, what if we were to do that? Like, sometimes, we'd be speaking about white people and we got to say not all white people, because we don't want to offend those who it doesn't apply to. So why don't people give the same grace to people who, identify as FBA? Not all FBA. And for me, I just use FBA because it's easier to explain than, I'm from here. I'm a Black American from here who descended from slaves, and, going through all of that, I can just say FBA. It's easy. It's easier to explain. So, people expect us to speak a certain way and not generalize and watch what we say and how we say it. But when it comes to us, some people be like, F all the FBA, everybody, like, they all divisive, they all this, they all that. But Flying Guillotine, if I'm not mistaken, you're FBA. Just because you don't identify as FBA, you might use another word for it, just like I don't identify as African American, but some people still going to see me as African American because it means Black people from here sometimes. But like I said, Obama is African American because his father is African and his mother is Irish American. So it really doesn't really describe us. So if I say, listen, I'm African American, I'm African American who descended from slaves from America, I have to put that disclaimer on. I have to add that on there to distinguish myself from Obama or something like that. Just like it was a speech that Michelle Obama had said about the White House. She said, her ancestors helped to build the White House. Obama couldn't say that. So he had to have Michelle give that speech because he couldn't give that speech because his ancestors or his lineage did not help to build the White House because his lineage is outside of American history. So it was an accomplishment for Michelle to be the first lady, to actually live in the White House as, the wife of the president instead of a slave or, someone who worked their servant. So that was an accomplishment for our people. I'm a Pan-African, is black, we're all stereotyped. That's not true, though. You see what I'm saying? That's not true. It's not true. But that's how you feel. I can't tell you how to feel, sir. I can't tell you how to feel. But that's not true. That's why you have some Africans that feel like they're pure Africans. They're more African than us and things of that nature. And black is not black because all blacks are not African. As I said, you have the Negritos. They're considered black. You have the Tasmanians, the Aboriginal Australians. They're considered black, but they're not African. So when you say black is black, it sounds ignorant. It sounds like you don't know, you don't study history. But anyway, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I don't want to get into no debates or nothing like that. But I just wanted to clarify that I'm not ashamed. If I do have African descent and stuff like that. I'm definitely not ashamed of that. But I'm also not ashamed of my indigenous ancestry either. And I'm not going to ignore that just to fit some stereotype of, what people say. Appreciate that, Flying Guillotine. Appreciate Miss Dankster. Appreciate you, Miss Nikki. Appreciate Miss Pamela. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Is there anything else that I wanted to say? Oh, and listen, salute to the African and Caribbean and Afro Latino, all of the brothers and sisters who are not in this, disrespectful back and forth and stuff like that. And salute to the FBAs. I think that's a small minority of people who's on here that's extreme and disrespectful and stuff like that. So I think we need to start acknowledging the people who stand up people, the people who's not getting caught up in the foolishness and stuff like that. Because we give all the attention to the people who come on here and say the most disrespectful things and all of that. They go viral. We talk about it. We make videos about it, but it kind of overshadows the people who are on here trying to preach unity and stuff like that and knowledge. So I think we should highlight those people more than we do the negative people. But as I said, those are the people who get the views. Those are the people who get the most attention. And this platform, social media, YouTube, is built for people to get views and engagements and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, being open-minded and respecting discussions that are open and honest from different viewpoints. Right. Open the link on this topic at a good time. Well, I'm not going to open a link. I wasn't planning to stay on here long. It's just that I didn't really have time to do an upload. So I said, let me just go live and discuss this here. But I definitely appreciate everybody who came through and gave their insight and support. Hit that like button. And I meant to say on my premieres, on my upload, they have something called, I always forget what this is called. Oh man, I forgot again. Wait, hold on. Let me go check. Hold on. I forgot. Hold on. Hold on real quick. I forgot what it's called. I don't know what it's called. Well, I guess I have to put that at another time. But yeah, let me see if anybody else has anything to say before I go. Ignorance while overlooking solid info is very weird. I agree. Yes, 1609. yes. But as I said, man, this social media thing, I can't take it serious because people have motives, alternative motives and stuff like that, because it's social media. So you might be on here saying certain things to get the views or get the engagements or get the subs. That might not even be really how you feel. It's a lot of things at hand. You might, be on here to get the cash apps and the super chats and you might be on here for, to sell some merch or whatever you're doing. So that might influence, what you say and what you do on here. So that's why, I don't really take this stuff at face value, because it's entertainment, at the end of the day. And people like drama. Drama sells, controversy sells, Man, this is a business, entertainment. So people may come on here and say, that this is how they are. They're being genuine. This is the real them. And some of them may really believe that. But their actions are influenced by views and subs and super chats and cash apps and attention and, what people may think and stuff like that. So I understand this very well. So I don't blame people, individuals. It's the system. Don't hate the player, hate the game, as they say. Some people will purposely get you. Yeah, get you in your feelings. Yep. We know what that's called. The T word. I don't like to speak about it over here. The T word. That's when the message is lost. Yep. That's why I try not to take it seriously. I try not to take it personally, but I'm human. But anyway, salute to y'all. I appreciate y'all. As I said, I will catch y'all on the next one. Wait, before I go, we got any more comments here? True, the clicks and views. Yes. That's true. That's true, Miss New York, Nikki. It's unfortunate, but it's true. But yeah, as I said, I appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Appreciate everybody who came through, showed love. Salute to the members. Salute to the genuine supporters. Salute to the chat. Everybody watching from behind the scenes. Everybody who catch this on a replay. It's your host and your DJ Holla.